During the Gulf War, I was fortunate enough to get myself a gig with the McNeil-Lehrer NewsHour, today the PBS NewsHour, covering the war. They sent me to Israel. I mean, it was a sidebar in the thing, and I was a freelance video journalist with my little camera. I wasn't a real correspondent, but it was a war and it was all hands on deck. So I went off to Israel to cover the Gulf War, which is kind of exciting. My friend Tony Horowitz, who was with the Wall Street Journal, actually was on the front lines in Kuwait. He won a Pulitzer Prize. That's how it is. But anyway, I was in Israel, and the story was, I was looking for a story. The great anxiety was that Saddam Hussein had threatened to fire off his Scud missiles on Tel Aviv and burn Israel to the ground. Of course, everyone was terrified of the Scud missile attack. Everything with Israel was Scud missiles. So we're all waiting for the Scud missiles to arrive. Arthur Kent, you may remember, if you're old enough, was the CNN reporter. He was called the Scud Stud. Remarkably, his career came to an end with the end of the war, Scud missiles not being what they were. At any rate, the anxiety was extremely high because there was, maybe he had nuclear weapons, you remember, weapons of mass destruction, and of course Israel was going to be his big target and set off World War III. When we arrived in Tel Aviv, all of us correspondents went to the Israeli Department of Information or Public Information, and we got our little, laminated ID cards that said press on them with a little lanyard, and we also got a box that had a gas mask in it. This was if there was a gas attack. And then we got these cylinders, these cardboard cylinders, brown cardboard cylinders about this big. And I said to the guy, "What is this?" And he said, "This is for a nerve gas. Nerve gas come on Scud missile." And I said, "What do I do?" He says, "If nerve gas come, you take this plunger, you plunge into your thigh like this, makes needle come out and inject you for a nerve gas." I went, "Great." He said, "Then after that, you take needle and put it through collar of your shirt." I said, "Why is that?" He says, "Because you will pass out, and when we find your body, we know you will have been injected." Oh, great. So needless to say, everywhere I went, whatever I was doing, I carried with me my box with the gas mask, and I carried my cardboard cylinder, making sure not to step on it, so I set off the needle by accident, or sit on it, and that's how we covered the war. We all were waiting for Scud missiles to come. One night, we're having dinner at Peter Arnett's house. Peter Arnett was the big correspondent for CNN. I don't know why he was in Israel. He should have been in Kuwait, but there he was. He had this very nice house, and we're outside in the backyard having dinner all together when suddenly this alert goes off that a Scud missile has in fact been fired from Kuwait and is on its way to Tel Aviv. This was fantastic, because what all journalists were all waiting for. The Americans have this geosynchronous satellite in orbit over Iraq. It sees when the missile is fired. They calculate the trajectory. It goes to Goldstone, Colorado. The information comes back to Tel Aviv, and in like minutes, they tell you the missile is coming. In fact, they knew it was going to hit in 12 minutes. And sitting outside, it was the weirdest thing. Sitting outside at Arnett's house, you could see in the sky this bright light approaching, arcing from the east. And that was the missile. It was almost like a train coming through the fog, and you could see that. And you could hear the thing coming, because you saw it before you heard it, and it was on its way to Tel Aviv. And then it arced over the house, and then we heard on the radio it had struck Tel Aviv. Well, of course, we're all journalists. We hop into the cars. We drive like madmen to get to Tel Aviv. It's only like 12 miles away. And, of course, there's police cordons, but we have our little press, American television. And so they let us through, and we get to the place where the Scud missile has landed in suburban Tel Aviv. And we get to the site, and the thing has dug out a ditch, probably the size of a little swimming pool, and nobody was killed. And in fact, some guy is running around going, "Scratch my car! Who's gonna pay?" So at that moment, I know essentially the war was over, because that was the most damage the fearful Scud missiles could possibly do. Well, of course, as an independent video journalist, I thought this was a great story. Scud missiles are bullshit. Essentially, that was the story. McNeil-Lehrer did not want to run that story, and neither did anybody else. In fact, what they kept running was Scud missiles are coming, poison gas. It was kind of a precursor of what was going to happen in the second Gulf War. Weapons of mass destruction, this anxiety all the time. The anxiety drives ratings. The ratings drives revenue. And everybody in the television business is interested, or in the news business, wants ratings. They want scary stuff. Scud missile does no damage is not a scary story. So if this had been now, I simply would have put the thing on Facebook, like I'm doing with this, and I would have said, hey, you know what? Scud missile, no big deal. But in those days, and of course to a great extent even today, the news media is controlled by a handful of very small corporations, ABC, CNN, whomever, and what they want to do is they want ratings. You get ratings with scary stuff. You get ratings with Scud missiles. You don't get ratings with Scud missiles don't really do a whole hell of a lot of damage. So therefore, that thing got killed. Not interested. No thanks. Thank you very much. The potential of this video revolution, that is putting this technology in everyone's hands, means pretty soon we won't have to be scared by media companies looking for ratings about Scud missiles or ISIS or anything else. I don't want to get political here, but I do want to tell you that the democratization of video is a really important thing for getting at the truth. The more voices, the better. And this iPhone with video, it's your voice. Learn to use it. See you later.